Okay, hello. This is episode number 3. Today we're going to do a book review on a book that I'm obsessed about, and I wanted to share. I wanted to share with the world. I wanted to share because I want to internalize really a lot of the advice from this book, which I've been fascinated with. This is for you, Gabi and Mila, for the future. So I hope that you find it as enjoyable and as useful as I find it. To my family and friends, I also hope that you take a lot away from it. I read a ton of books, not as much as when I started having kids, but still, I I read a ton and I listen to a lot of interesting people. One of those people is Scott Adams, which I didn't follow directly, but many of the people that I trust and follow spoke about him. So I decided to maybe there is something there. Let's pick up one of those books and see if there is something to what so many people call the legend. And this is deep. This is a gift, really, that I've given myself, and I really want to share this with as many people as possible. So, without further ado, this is the name of the book: How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. The kind of the story of my life by Scott Adams. I've been taken aback, fascinated by the book, the quality of the content. Um, I wish I had come across this book earlier in my career and really in my upbringing. I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 in January. I'm recording this May 23rd, 2026. So, yes, almost 40. And I could have used this advice. In any case, a lot of the advice in this book I've come across before, but from a very theoretical, heavy, abstract standpoint. So some of the concepts I recognize, but Scott Adams makes it so accessible and so easy for me to digest and make it sink in. Um, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of personal self help books out there. This may sound surprising, but I think this one needs to be either at the top or near the top. And its simplicity is just really makes that more powerful. The way that he explains the concept. It's also an enjoyable book to read. So I highly recommend it. I put together a series of slides just to help me guide through my talk here, which I think it also help you. I highlighted some things from the book that I just think are worth calling out. I'm trying to keep this between um, 30 and 40 minutes. May I may go longer because it's just a lot of interesting stuff and useful. So let's see. Here we go. I'm going to share the presentation and then we'll just get into it. Right, so we already covered this. Okay, so I guess something else that I wanted. So this is the street smart version of how to succeed in life, how to get to where you want to get, but just being smart, pragmatic about it. Um, I said it was an enjoyable read. I mean, this is essentially Scott's Adams by design model that he makes things simple and entertaining. I am a busy parent. I have 2 young daughters, full-time job, family, everything else, and I managed to read it in less than a week. And I think part of it is just I was motivated. I couldn't let it go. So it has that factor to it. Um, so this is kind of like the what the book is going to talk about. So um, the only I'm going to highlight 2 things from this list that were um, yeah, kind of like groundbreaking for me, and are going to help me make transformational change. The number one is the first concept of like goals being for losers and winners really use systems. I have been for the last 40 years, likely even from when I was a baby, really focused on goals. Um, and that is a way to accomplish your goals, be goal oriented. But boy, is it's not as enjoyable. And I wish someone had told me this. So we're gonna go deeper into that one. And the other one is number three here, which is how what you should be focusing on is there's so many things that you can focus on. Your weight, how much money you have in your bank account, how many friends you have, or depending on what you want in life. But if you want to optimize for really unleashing your potential, your personal energy is what counts. And that was not obvious to me until now. So we'll go deeper into those two subjects. Okay, and this is something else that I highlighted from the book. Not sure my upbringing, where I come from, my family. Um, we're very passionate people. Passion is something that has taken me places. Um, I cannot do something half baked. I have to own it. I have to be very motivated. But something that I was not obvious to me is that sometimes when you're passionate about something, when you just use passion, like pure passion, that's not really a good way of building long life or long lived success or systems or anything that's durable, because passion is transient. So you can't really build a life on it. And then compared to building skills and energy, uh, if you focus on that, passion will show, right? So his whole principle here is, really what the title states here is passion is bullshit. Success cost passion more than passion costs success, right? And then he just highlights that energy is good, but really, if you just focus on passion, that's just bullshit. Um, so there's so many good anecdotes where he talks about that. This book is filled with anecdotes, and if you like a good story, you're gonna be fascinated. I'm just giving you the concepts, which I want to internalize and I want to share. But I mean, this is why he wrote the book. I'm not gonna go into every anecdote. Um, Another important concept is, what I mentioned about goals and systems. Goal-oriented people exist in a state of nearly continuous failure that they hope will be temporary. That's been me. That's been my experience. I set very ambitious goals, many of them years into the future, and every day is a grind. Every day you wake up and you kind of like, I have this thing is so far. So it's not an enjoyable experience. So, and then when you think about it, if you're goal oriented, it only pays out once. A goal pays out only once. If you have a system, it pays out every day because you're focused on the system. Every single day, you are stepping your way to the goal. So, from an experience and what you go through in your mind, it's a much better way of living life. So, the simplification here is that a goal-oriented life is a continuous failure with intermittent relief, right? And then system-oriented life is you're constantly winning, and that winning compounds over time. So a system is, and I paraphrase from his book, a system is something you do on a regular basis that increases your odds of happiness in the long run. If you do something every day, it's a system. If you're waiting to achieve it someday, it's a goal. So an example that he gives is in an Olympic in the Olympics, right? You have thousands of people, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people trying to get to a goal. Only one person achieves that goal, which is whoever gets the gold medal, right? Um, but when you look at how they go about setting for the goals, only a few of those really have a system that improve their ads toward achieving that goal. And that's what makes the difference. If you study every gold medalist, you see that they weren't all passionate. They all had a system because that's what professional sports requires, that you have a system. Um, and then he also gives us the example of um, buying lottery tickets, where if you buy a lottery ticket every week, that is not a system, because no matter how really often you do it, you're not improving your odds. The odds for lottery ticket are fixed, right? The odds are always going to be the same. But when you have so that's a foolish endeavor to try to improve your odds on a lottery. However, that's not how life works. Um, you could build systems that improve your odds towards achieving a goal. So a good example of this is, let's say I want to become a, I don't know, just take a profession. I want to become a medical doctor, for example. I could have a system where I create, I surround myself with medical doctors, right? That is part of my system. I want to meet as many doctors as possible. I want to meet as many medical students as possible. So you make your system part of your routines, where you get exposure to people in the vicinity of where your goal is. So you have improved your odds because you have increased your proximity to people that are in the field. So you learn more about that, and you can essentially improve your odds. So um, moving on, he also talks about the concept of looking at your life as a product. I am a product manager. This is what I do for a living, and I've done this for many years now. And the philosophy I follow for building products is the agile methodology, which is about the agile methodology comes down to the scientific method. Um, you have a hypothesis, you test your hypothesis, you observe, you have a um, observation of what could make it better, and then you make the change, you observe, and it improves, and you do it in iteration. So if you think about your life the same way as the product you're designing, where you design a system, you can really improve your ads. Another important takeaway from the book is this concept of selfishness as these, often misconstrued concept of being selfish, or really not being selfish, is like looking after yourself first, as being morally wrong. And in this book, Scott Adams, like, this is a concept that I've studied for years, by the way. I really had to go deep into a certain philosophical system to understand these. So, like, the theory, I essentially went about one way where, like, it took me so long to realize this. But um, Scott Adams simplifies that concept, and he simply explains that really it's really, you know difficult to find someone who's successful that is selfish in the wrong connotation of the term. So what he's saying is, you really need to look after yourself before you can look after your family, and before you can look after your tribe, you have to look after your family, and then before you can look after your country, you need to look after your tribe, and so on and so forth. So generous people, often you see this is just a pattern, right? And he talks about pattern recognition often. Generous people take care of their own needs first. And if you look around, and if you have people that you've seen that are generous, meaning like they're very generous, um, you will see that that is a pattern that they they take care of their own needs first. The other one that I mentioned is a concept that I took it to heart, and I think it's going to be helpful to many people. Is this concept of energy as a single metric? Um, so I quote from his book: "The way I approach the problem of multiple priorities is by focusing on just one main metric, my energy." In life, I found that if I try to focus on too many things at a time, I often I not don't do a good job on any of them. So he really emphasizes in focusing on your energy and thinking about your energy. And if you were to do that, then um, everything else will be sorted out for you. So I I understand this concept now. It just makes sense to me, and this is really about thinking how you're feeling, right? Like your willingness to go after the tasks you have to do and the goals you have to achieve. Like think deeply about that. What helps you create energy and harnesses that energy and continue growing it, and what takes away from that energy. So like if you start thinking about that and then just focus on that, everything else will be taken care of. The other one is thinking about your brain as being this programmable machine, um, and like what are the levers you have to move in order to optimize for performance. And he has a whole chapter on exercise, on sleep, on food, on general wellness. Um, he also talks about how you can create that energy by simple things as smiling, right? And smiling is something that I have to remind myself often. But the moment you smile, you feel happy. Also, if you want to work out more, like set up a system where, for example, put on workout clothes. Just wearing workout clothes, just putting on workout clothes already makes you feel as working out. So the idea is that you set up your environment around you and your routines so that it's easy for you to follow that system. All right. This one is also a very important lesson, take away from the book that I wanted to highlight. There's just so much. And by the way, I cut it down. But you shouldn't hesitate to modify your perceptions to whatever makes you happy, because you're probably wrong about the underlying nature of reality anyway. Truth isn't always knowable. Stories are always choosable. Pick the worldview that works, even if you don't know why. The story you tell yourself becomes the life you live. This is a big lesson too for me, because I've always struggled with this. I am someone who's very objective about life, and I've always wanted to be anchored in reality and like truth. But I never really thought about what are the implications of trying to really decipher, the true nature of whatever it is around me. So the important takeaway for me here is, irrespective of the story that I tell myself being, objectively truth or not, that story drives my energy, and that story really drives my outcome. So choosing that story, being intentional about the story you tell yourself, is one of the most important things on programming that robot, right? That we talked about, because you can tell the story yourself that is conducive to happiness and success, but you can also tell a story that is very damaging and undercuts your potential. So Be deliberate about the story that you tell yourself, because that is the story that you're going to build your future on. And I couldn't stress this. I think this one requires really a whole episode because of how important it is. But yeah, I know right now I'm going very abstractly. But if you are listening to this and you've thought about this, Tony Robbins also talks a lot about this. I mean, these are people that you pay, thousands of dollars for professional advice on coaching. This one lesson in itself, if you really grasp it, can make a significant impact on your life. Okay, curating your inputs. That is something that I'm also very mindful of and I started doing, but now I do more intentional. Uh, Raise the ratio of happy thoughts to disturbing ones. Avoid news of the depressing type, downer music, downer movies. I do that. Um, I I don't really watch the news. I'm very careful about the sources that I pick, and I've gotten to a point where like I've I don't follow social media the typical way that I used to do in the past. I really try to stay away from it, um, because it's just not good input. I do follow X just to stay in the know. So what Scott Adams recommends is like news is for patterns and energy, not for truth. So if you keep as long as you keep that in mind, you can keep yourself sane. And this has helped me also a lot is recognizing what's happening, not necessarily what's truth. Okay. Um, this one is we're talking about the odds. So the one way to improve this is just like pragmatic advice is, hey, one way to improve your odds is just stacking on skills, and then you know becoming the best. And I'll just paraphrase: every skill you acquire doubles your odds of success. Pretty simple. Becoming the best in the world at one thing is nearly impossible. I mean, that's just it. It's like if you want to be the best at chess, there's only one, right? But becoming good at several complementary things um, is very doable, and it improves your chances. So if you're good at public speaking, and then you're also good at computer, those are two amazing skills that you may not be the best, but when you combine them, you improve your chances, and you're great. So it's better than each individual. And then he talks about the talent stack. I won't cover all 13 skills that he recommends, but what I suggest you do is rate yourself. If you manage to get the book, rate yourself against each one of these, because if you're weak in one of them, chances are you can double your ads or improve your ads significantly if you were to focus on one of them. Um, this one is about mental tools that you could use to keep that energy and like pragmatic advice to go through life. The one thing I highlight here is, or maybe a few, humor. I like to use humor as a way of keeping the things less tense. Affirmations is something that I started doing. He has a few chapters on that, and really evidence of its effectiveness. So I recommend taking a look at that. Um, he talks about how you can choosing to think about experts, that they're not right all the time. Um, this is again, there's a whole episode that we can do on this, but just use your own judgment. There's some experts that you can definitely trust their advice because they've proven their expertise through you know the practice of what they're trying to teach. There are some others that you should be very skeptical about, and that's what he talks about here. And then let's move on. The last chapter, by the way, it's essentially a summary. Um, which I have a slide that I simplify here using code. But let me just read it because I mean, this is the magic of Scott Adams. He just really is able to simplify in 2 pages. This is 2 pages I'm going to read to you. 2 pages of what is the advice that he gives. Again, you can't really internalize all the advice unless you read the book. But this is just a good summary that will probably like um, maybe motivate you to read it, or and if not, you can just take lessons from it. Um, so this is what he says: focus on your diet first and get that right so you have enough energy to want to exercise. So this is important of exercising for him. He thinks exercise is something that you must master so that you can make everything else easier. Exercise will further improve your energy, and that in turn will make you more productive, more creative, more positive, more socially desirable, and more able to handle life's little bumps. Once you optimize your personal energy, all you need for success is luck. You can't directly control luck, but you can move from strategies with bad odds to strategy with good odds. For example, learning multiple skills, talent stacking, raises your odds of success dramatically compared to learning just one or two skills. If you learn to control your ego, you can pick strategies that scare off the people who fear embarrassment, thus competing against a smaller field. No brainer, right? And if you stay in the game long enough, luck has a better chance of finding you. Avoid career traps such as pursuing jobs that require you to sell your limited supply of time while preparing you for nothing better. Happiness is the only useful goal in life. Unless you're a sociopath, your own happiness will depend on being good to others. Unhappiness tends to happen naturally whenever you have good health, resources, and a flexible schedule. Get your health right first, acquire resources and new skills through hard work, and look for opportunities that will give you a flexible schedule. Some skills are more important than others, and you should acquire as many of those skills as possible, including, and then he gives you the whole list. Develop a habit of simplifying. Learn how to make small talk with strangers and avoid being an asshole. If you get that stuff right, and almost anyone can, you will be hard to stop. It might help you to think of yourself as a moist robot, not a skin bag full of magic and mystery. If you control the inputs, you can determine the outcomes, give or take some luck. Eat right, exercise, think positively, learn as much as possible, stay out of jail, and good things can happen. Look for patterns in every part of life, from diet to exercise. Try to find scientific backing for your observed patterns and use yourself as a laboratory to see if the patterns hold for you. Most important, understand that goals are for losers and systems are for winners. People who seem to have good luck are often the people who have a system that allows luck to find them. I've laid out some systems in this book that seems to work for me. Your experience will differ, but it always helps to be thinking in terms of systems and not goals. And always remember that failure is your friend, is the raw material of success. Invite it in, learn from it, and don't let it leave until you pick its pocket. That's a system. So that is my summary of the book. What I'm changing is that I'm going to be focused on building daily systems instead of chasing goals. I am designing for personal energy. For mornings, I really love listening to music really throughout my day. having family rituals, and then being on a diet from media will be important to me. Owning the simplified identity, not apologizing for it. I intentionally stacking skills right in the mastering one, starting affirmations, which I already told you about, and letting go of needing the absolute objective truth. For Mila and Gabby, so I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna tell it to you right now. Mila, you are 3. Gabby, you are 7. So these are things that you are going to internalize over time, but hopefully you have by the time you listen to these. But you're gonna listen to me talk about these things as you grow. Goals will let you down. System wants. That doesn't mean you don't want to have goals. You want to have goals, but you want to prioritize the systems. Manage your energy first. That means your brain, how you feel. Everything else flows from it. Pile up skills, not titles. Two good skills beat one great one. Failure is a teacher, never a verdict. The story you tell yourself is the life you will live. And definitely, definitely read this book. Let's stop sharing. So that is it, my friends. Happy that I finally got to episode 3. I've been setting this goal of having a podcast review on thoughts that I have, books, things that I come across once a week. Um, I failed miserably at that. Um, I'm going to set up a system, and we're going to see. I'm going to set up a system for this, and hopefully, you're going to see more of this. But I really enjoyed having the opportunity to share this with you, and enjoy life. I wish you the best, and thank you for the opportunity to share this with you.